No. Now I know why you want to do that.
Just talk.
Just talk naturally.
So just talking about the showroom. So the idea was that rather than have a traditional brick and mortar store, so rather than having a normal shop with watches behind glass, people can come and have a more intimate experience, kind of like getting a suit fitted. So we also offer customization at the showroom. So
it's like a lounge environment.
Yeah. So this starts a bit like
Couches,
our
coffee
offices.
table.
So we have myself, I've got a brand manager and 2 watchmakers full time. Hoping to hire around the 2 watchmakers in the next couple of months as well. Now that we've
and this is in Melbourne.
Yeah, so we're in inner city Melbourne in a suburb called Carlton, which is just next to the city.
And he has a watch called the Carlton.
Yeah, we do. So the idea was that to be a Melbourne watch company, we have to really do as much as we can in Melbourne.
Schmuck.
Our workshop opened probably July last year, and now we're assembling everything we sell through there.
That's really impressive.
It's my longer term goal is that we start manufacturing components in Melbourne. So I've actually had some good conversations with the government in Australia, the Victorian government, because there's a lot of support for the manufacturing industry since the auto industry shut down. There's a lot of programs to get jobs created in that space.
And I would imagine that for Australians, it's nice that they can buy into a brand that is from there.
Yeah, there's hardly any Australian brands, and as far as I know, we're one of the
I've
only.
I've never heard.
Yeah,
there are many.
I'm pretty sure we're the only ones doing our assembly like we're doing it at scale. I could be wrong, but
no, you're definitely the leader in Australia.
Yeah,
for all of that.
Wanted to put Australia on the map, I guess, in terms of watchmaking, because unlike America, which did have that watchmaking industry at some stage, Australia's never had that. So it's very interesting. The biggest challenge right now is even if I could get the finance together to go down that manufacturing path, we don't have the skills and knowledge, so I'd have to import that anyway. But
and that's because, and I know from a little bit of knowledge about old English brands like Charles Frodsham and watchmakers from classic English watchmakers. Yeah, I know that they exported a lot of watches to Australia, so that's probably why they didn't develop their own. But I didn't know they didn't. They weren't any.
No, I mean, you don't.
There's a bunch of criminals down in Australia, aren't you? That's where Britain dumps its refuse.
You would expect it would be calming, good influence to take up watchmaking, right? Oh well, obviously didn't happen.
The market's very different in Australia as well.
Right.
We don't have this huge boutique brand scene.
But Oris is big down there, right?
Yeah, they're one of the more popular mainstream brands. Yeah, but the problem is you walk into a store in Australia, and you generally get the lower end fashion watches, the very common ones, Daniel Lantern, and there's a big gap up until about $1,000 Australian dollars, and then there's the entry level Swiss stuff. Yeah. But that gap between sort of $300 to $1,000 Aussie dollars, we've sort of filled that a little bit.
That's the white space that most, if not all micro brands, not all, but many micro brands.
That's what I consider the sweet spot of the market, that mid range.
Yeah. Can I ask? How is the watch market in general in Australia?
It's a good question. We've enjoyed very strong sales the last couple of years, hence why we've been able to do all this expansion. But I don't think that the general public, the general consumer is as educated in terms of what makes a quality watch. Yeah. You've got huge amounts of sales in the lower end of the segment, the fashion watch segment. Fashion, of course. And just due to the fact that the population is nowhere near as big as, say, over here, and I guess disposable income is not quite as readily available. So the luxury watch industry is quite
Give
small.
Jeremy his Marine Master back.
Not many watch shops around that specialise in luxury watches.
So I guess that reinforces the need for the $1,000 sweet spot. Yeah,
so we get most of our customers are usually young professionals, guys, sort of usually 25 to 34. That's our biggest demographic. They usually own a watch already, but it's often a fashion watch, and they're looking to get into their first real watch, but they don't want to spend thousands of dollars on an entry-level Swiss watch. So we've had a lot of interest in that. And
Can I ask what kind of? So you mentioned fashion watches a lot. How do you feel is the best way to reach out to people that weren't? Because I get a lot of emails from people saying they bought their first Sega because they saw a video of mine, and now they're buying an Oris, or they're buying this or whatever. And that really inspires me. I love that, because then they're hooked into the passion and they're enjoying it like I enjoy it and like we all enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
What's the best way, in your opinion, to reach out to inspire that new watch enthusiast?
Well, in our case, it's people who have only been into quartz watches. It's sort of educating them about how mechanical watches work, and often they get fascinated by it. They have no idea that there's so much complexity in something so small,
right?
And that really gets to them, especially for us when we get people into the showroom. And they've got really no idea at first, but we have a bit of a chat and we show them how things go together, and actually, they can pick up a movement, have a look at it, and they're like, oh wow, and it doesn't cost thousands of dollars. So that we find that does the trick.
Is there that, because of a lot of the misconception of those that do know about them, think that it's only high-end stuff.
Yeah.
That you can buy a beautifully made quality watch, and it's not going to be, in-house, highly decorated, blah blah blah. But is there that kind of, how should I say, that also a
misconception?
A misconception, yeah. Thank you. Does that exist?
It does, but I find that misconception exists more among people that are into watches. So it's we get so many people.
What's up, Jeremy?
Why Japanese?
Hanging out.
And it's just like
Right.
try to change that.
Nice, man. Really nice.
Really expensive Swiss movements, sort of, etc. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be twice as good or 3 times as good as a Japanese movement.
Right.
I mean, that's a misconception I think we all deal with no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Or an entry level Swiss movement. It's more or quality is not it's not tied to the price tag. We're trying to show people that you can get something really good without having to break the bank.
I think from talking to Sujain for
performance,
years, one thing I've heard enough from him that I think differentiates the Australian market is that they're much less hung up on point of origin, because here in America, there's like a sense of anger about the outsourcing of manufacturing overseas. There's all this sort of like anti-China bias, where, like Sujain said, they never had a watchmaking industry in Australia. Australia's never been, a really diverse manufacturing type of country. They've had a couple core manufacturing industries. It's not like people in Australia are angry about the watch being made in China or Malaysia or wherever. So they're much less hung up on that aspect of it.
That's right. 100%
But
right.
I do feel that perception is changing. Like I was talking to Dan Henry, and I really loved the way, when I reviewed his watch, he was open and he showed pictures of the factory in China on his Instagram. And he said, look, and I was impressed too, that the factory, it looked so professional, it looked so clean, and there's this idea that it's made in some sweatshop.
That's funny.
That's the bias.
Not the high standards.
We had that same thought when we visited the factory. It's like, oh wow, this is actually quite professional.
Yeah.
When we toured the mainland, we went to, we saw the case factory where they were doing, we saw the dial factory, we saw the case plating factory, which was state of the art, we saw the assembly facility, which was state of the art, and we saw we saw something else. All right, so we saw 4 places. So we saw our assembly place. The assembly place was dust-free facility. You had to put little booties on your feet. I had a little bit of a trouble with the booty machine. Remember that? Yeah. So that was booty machine. Booty machine. Everybody needs a booty machine.
We all need a booty machine.
Booty machine. What am I missing here? Someone say booty? But I think people get the wrong idea. Like they say, oh, it's sweatshop, it's child labor. It's
You say booty machine, all of a sudden likes and hearts go across the screen.
Right?
Everybody wants a booty machine.
Who doesn't want
This
a
Facebook Live.
Oh, is this Facebook?
Yeah.
Is this the UGWC?
No, I've never heard of the UGWC. This is some other group. Yes.
All right, so the assembly facility was top-notch, state-of-the-art. The case plating facility was state-of-the-art. I mean,
Keep those hearts coming. Booty machine.
the dial-making stuff. If you're gonna are we done with the booty machine?
No, I can't let that one go. Sorry. Chris has trouble with the booty machine.
I'm never gonna let that down. Never go microbrand conversation.
Yeah,
The dial shop was a metal shop. If you've ever been to a high school metal shop, that's exactly what the dial shop looks like. Where they print the dials,
Look at this.
graphic arts.
Look at all the hearts and lights going by.
That's the dial.
Of a booty machine.
Right. So when people talk about like sweatshop, I'm like, well, we were there in September. It's really hot there. We were all sweating, but it wasn't like inhumane conditions.
Ricardo wants to come
Like,
live.
if you had your car
He's
repaired
standing
in the
here.
summertime, those guys are
He
sweating.
wants to go live in the video.
So, you know, the plating shop was air conditioned, the assembly shop was air conditioned, the dial shop and the printing shop, they were fan conditioned. They weren't air conditioned. But they were finishing the cases.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like a machine shop. There's sweaty guys running around, but it's not a sweatshop. Yeah.
There's sweaty guys running wide, but there's not a sweatshop.
And none of those guys are messing with the booty machine.
Now I'm doing an Instagram live video. It's all about social media right now. So, Chris, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hey, TGV, Shane Clef says,
the booty machine.
hi.
Hello, Shane. How are you, sir?
Chris from?
Janis Trading.
Stefano says we need some women in the team, bro.
I totally agree.
This is Marvin Menke from the Watches.
I don't think this chat needs any introduction.
Wait,
Ciao,
Facebook say hi to Instagram. Instagram say hi to Facebook.
They're owned by the same daddy.
Oh.
Yeah.
So different baby mama?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, brother, all right, continue, guys.
Yeah.
I'm getting a shirt made that says booty machine.
Well, that shirt's questionable. Though.
Hey. I'm talking
royalties.
I mean female booty machine.
Anyway,
Some watches here, got some Melbourne, guys.
When we're
check out.
overseas, we'll talk about on the forums. We'll start a thread. We'll post
We
pictures.
should go with
This is
What's that?
my new AVIG, guys.
So they're a little bit skittish.
One of a
you were asking,
kind.
Like, what's this show about? What is it like?
Yeah.
They're a little bit
Hey,
skittish.
it's
about
Giancarlo.
cameras,
Jeremy
the main
wrote,
hall,
that's one
all the
ugly
vendors are,
iPhone case.
Because there's all this secrecy about which factory makes which watches, and they also don't want you seeing like the knockoffs. But the salon part of the show,
Got some Hemels.
where they have like the more glitz and glamour, that is very camera friendly. So absolutely, we should take cameras there. And if we could maybe even get like glasses with hidden cameras, we could probably walk around the main hall.
You'd be very surprised to see some of the brands that are there in Chinese factories.
Yeah.
Which are
Right.
Swiss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shows the quality. Just origin doesn't necessarily mean.
I had a problem with my box factory. The first time we were there, I had a problem with my box factory. I was looking for a new box supplier, and I went to the box factory's booth, and there's Longines and Maurice Lacroix, and I'm like, if it's good enough for them, it's gotta be good enough for me. I can live with that.
Maybe we should not be sharing this stuff online.
Yeah.
There definitely aren't Swiss brands in China having manufacturing stuff made.
Hey, he said it.
Yeah.
I'm not online anymore.
Oh, you were smart.
I think that's one thing that microbrands are bringing to the world. It's destroying that perception of
Transparency.
Yeah, absolutely.
perception of Chinese made being equal to badly made.
No, because you guys can attest to that some of the Chinese factories are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the dial factory in particular was quite interesting. Just the level of skill that goes into actually, these are tiny things, and a lot of them are still hand assembled. So they're putting on each individual indice.
I think people should know that many of the parts in their Swiss watches are coming from China.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people do.
I mean, and this is probably for a whole nother episode, a whole nother forum, a whole nother, maybe not for Facebook Live, but 51%
Yes.
of a watch has to be made in Switzerland, but that's by 60%. But that's by But that's by value, meaning that the case, the bracelet, the bezel, and the dial in the hands might be valued at X amount of dollars, but the Swiss movement might exceed that by X amount of percent.
A bunch of watch beads hanging out on a Friday. All the parts can be made somewhere else.
In China, and that final screw could be turned in
and that screw is the most valuable part of the watch.
Well, part of that 51% that has to be made could also be just someone overseeing, someone designing it or engineering it.
So let's ask Sujain. So
that could be part of that 50%.
Yeah, let's get you on the record.
Well, no, I'm saying, you're talking about starting to make some components in Australia.
Yeah.
Is that because Australians are like Americans and that we want to be made in America, made in Australia? Or is it because you have an interest in getting higher level quality, more control over the production process? And which is the real driving decision making?
No, Chris, we're not as arrogant as you guys in Australia.
Why are you interested in making components in Australia?
There's a couple of things. I mean, it's something that it's partially wanting to achieve something. Really, for me, it's
a challenge.
It's a challenge. But in terms of quality, etc., as we've just said, making a case in Australia doesn't mean it's going to be any better than a case that's come from China.
A skilled worker is a skilled worker. I have no doubt.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, see, I would actually somewhat disagree in that I think if it's a case being made to your design, wouldn't you feel better being able to inspect the cases coming right off the line? Because it's right around the corner from your office.
The other thing to keep in mind is that we're starting from scratch doing this, whereas you've got decades now.
No, but so you have unlimited resource, ideal world. Wouldn't you like to be able to go and visit every single part coming off the line, every piece that gets assembled? Because sometimes we don't see the quality. We see it beforehand in the prototypes, we see it after we get production. I would love it if we could start making some of these components here so that we can actually inspect them as they're being made and make incremental quality improvements along the way instead of saying, all right, well, that last model, there was a little something that was wrong, we're going to try to improve that next
Agreed.
time.
But with that comes an increase in price, so that's...
Chris,
Maybe not.
Chris, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If take the napkin I'm wearing, right?
Right.
If that was Swiss made,
Right.
completely Swiss made, roughly, what do you think the price would be?
That's a great question.
So how much is it now?
It's a $600 watch now, which, I mean, I'm open and honest online about prices. I think $600 for that watch is a fair price, but I don't know that I could get much more than that. Because I think based on the movement, and I think a fair assessment of the quality, if I tried to charge more, I think much of the market would balk.
But just supposing for a moment.
Right, so
if it had an ETA movement,
if it had an ETA movement in it, I think right off the bat, the ETA movement costs more, so I would have to charge more. And then I think there's the perception of value of, I could say, Swiss on it. So I could actually charge more, even regardless of how much more it costs me to make. I can add a little premium in there because I can now tell the world it's Swiss. But what you're talking about, when you say Swiss made, do we simply mean something where all the parts are made somewhere outside of Switzerland and everything is assembled in Switzerland? Because that's technically Swiss made.
Okay, let's suppose that.
Or are we actually
for a
making
moment.
all the parts in Switzerland?
No, I mean, that's some high-end stuff.
There is nuance here.
Right, because I
if
think
we
the
were
art brand is
comparing
actually making all the parts in Switzerland, but I don't think they're being sold for $600 or $700.
No.
So
just imagine if it was to the Oris standard.
If I made everything exactly the same now, but I just stuck a Swiss movement in it, it's probably $100 more retail. But if I started saying, okay, we're not just going to stick a Swiss movement in it, we're going to do Swiss assembly. Now that adds a little bit to the price. We're going to start making some of the other components in Switzerland. We're going to use a German case from Fricker or Ickler. That adds to the price. Easily, you're at $800,000, $900,000 watches.
Can I throw a mix in there? So what would the
but not the better quality.
No,
just simply higher cost.
Well, not no better
quality.
Higher perception. What if that watch had the name Tag Heuer on it? What if that watch had the name
that's the power
Omega
of
on it? Right?
So that's the power.
So but then all of a sudden, like, so let's take a Tag Heuer equivalent, which would be what, the Caliber 5 Aqua Racer, let's say. Right? That watch, automatic, bracelet, the whole bit. What is that? $2,000 retail, close to.
Well, all right. So let's peel back the brand of Tag Heuer because we don't want to pick on that.
No, we're not, and I'm not picking on it. I love Tag Heuer.
Like I've gone to shows. I've gone to like meetups where people bring their watch collections, and I've been to boutiques, and I inspect quality. I'm always trying to get a sense for, legitimately, objectively as I can be, where does my quality stack up? Where does the quality of my peers stack up? And I looked at watches that are $2,000, $3,000 watches from well-known German brands, and the bezels are misaligned, and there's tons of slop in the bezels, and I see, parts of the dial that are misaligned, and I think, this is unbelievable to me that they actually have this in the case for sale or out on display, and people are willingly paying $2,000 or $3,000 to get quality that my customers wouldn't accept at $500 or $600. So people online, I think when we get into this sort of discussion and, from the micro brand's perspective, we're saying you need to see the quality to understand it. Absolutely. People kind of push back and they go, oh, you can't compare your quality to Tag or Omega or whatever.
There's so many cliches.
Or Tissot or anybody.
But
and it's not picking on a Swiss.
But I confidently say, look, you take anything I make and you compare it to anything that's name brand at twice the price, I have no problem comparing quality.
Absolutely.
The only thing, if we mention Tag, I must add, and I've been to Tag, I've seen their manufacturing process. They have a high upkeep. they got to pay a lot
Sure.
more people. And something I did notice is that their QC from every step was they would stop, look at the case, make sure, and then put it back in the production line.
Right.
Go to the next phase, it would be the dial assembly or whatever.
And I think that's
and
fair.
they'd stop, they'd do QC. There was QC on every single level.
I agree with that. I used to be of the mindset, and not that long ago, within the last couple of years, my mindset was there is no reason to pay more than $600-700 for a watch because you're paying for a brand and it's an unearned premium. You're simply paying for the name on the watch. I don't feel that way anymore. I think we have a situation where there's diminishing returns in manufacturing. Mm-hmm. If you want to get 10% better, you may have to pay 50% more. I'm making the numbers up, but in order to get that incremental increase in quality, if you want 5% better quality, it may cost you 20% more to get it. And so there's a point at which I think each guy in the market, each customer decides, this is my personal thermostat level. I'm comfortable here. This is my comfort zone. I'm happy with the quality of what I can get for $600 or $700. I'm not willing to pay 200% more to get 20% better quality. But I think that there is a fair argument to be made in favor of a Rolex or a Tag or an Omega because they are doing some of those things and they are able to get 5% better quality. But that 5% is going to cost you a lot more than 5%.
Well, also getting back to, I don't remember who was saying it, but there was a point about the scale of the company. You're not just paying for 5% quality, you're paying for celebrity endorsement, you're paying for, you know...
Well, that's the unearned premium stuff. I think that's fluff. But he's talking about legitimate quality, which I think is
but I think it gets
debatable, but arguably there's a value there that we're not able to compete with.
Mm-hmm. But it's also a value at a certain point where it becomes very subjective, I think, in terms of what constitutes an extra 5% quality. That's
right.
In the eye of the whole.
And are you even able to detect the difference in quality? And I think that's where a lot of guys get to the point where they go, I can't tell the difference between a $600 watch and a $2,000 watch, and so why would I spend $2,000? Right. And for that guy, fine, you're my best customer. You're going to love my watches for $600. But there's another guy out there that goes, there's things with this $600 watch that I simply can't live with. And I say to that guy, okay, I understand what you're saying. I'm not going to argue with you. I understand exactly what you're saying. There are things in this watch that are not perfect. But if you want perfect, it's going to cost you more than another $200. It's going to cost you another $1,200 to get that. And there are some guys where I go, if your tastes and your ability to discriminate quality are so finely tuned that you can't be satisfied with anything less than a $2,000 whatever, and you can afford it, fine. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to sit there and tell that guy he's wasting his money. But there are a lot of people that go, no, I'm perfectly happy with the quality of this. And there's nothing wrong with it in my view.
Well, that's what I always loved about yours. Instantly I could feel it. It was a tactile thing.
I appreciate that.
You know, and
I think that's true for a lot of micro brands. I think a lot of us are
yours
delivering
as well.
a higher level of
Everybody
quality.
here. I mean,
Well, that's what, what Marvin was talking about with the celebrity endorsements. You don't get that cost built into a micro brand. We don't have that. But you also don't get...
We don't have that whole infrastructure, that
We don't have the infrastructure.
retail, you know...
But I'd argue you could use that to your advantage because it's a personal thing. Not everybody's gonna have a personal.
Well, look at Oris, for instance. Oris doesn't have a celebrity endorser, which is a lot of the reason that they charge the same, a smaller price than some of the brands in the same caliber with, David Beckham or anybody else that's on board, right?
Oris is an exception, and
it is an exception.
You'll see when I interviewed the CEO, and he said. So I said, I really love the slogan, real watches for real people. And he said,
that's the Oris slogan, right?
Yeah.
And
they
it's
seem like they're all business.
And I think they do it well. And I think with
they're a serious company.
With the same argument, Bremont, they're partners. Yeah, we have an Oris over here checking it out. But Bremont's partners or Bremont's. If you see anybody with a Bremont on their celebrity or their Explorer or whatever the heck they are, those are guys who genuinely came to Bremont asking about the brand and wanting to be a part of the brand and are actually buying the watches from the brand, but because they believe in it and love it, they are allowing themselves to be ambassadors. Yeah. So they're not accepting.
What about Z-list YouTuber?
Yeah, look, if he's a Z-list, I'm like double, triple letters, like I'm like ZZZ. But yeah, we don't get anything.
Yeah.
Hey, We're working on it.
I got a cap though. I got a brim on.
You did, and I did bring you guys watch gauge caps, but I think I saw it in the garbage last time I left.
It's orange, Marvin.
It is orange.
The watch gauge cap is orange.
Yeah. I should have brought a handful tonight.
So Marv, what's your experience been like so far with everything?
I entered into the world of micro brands a little bit differently than these guys and many other guys, just because of my design background. I've always been involved in branding, inventing brands, reinventing brands, extending brands. So it's always been in my DNA to just sort of analyze the market, look at shelf sets, and see what consumer trends are, being happening. And as a watch guy, and I've always loved watches and having a lot of watches.
Which came first, the design, loving design, or watches?
I think loving watches did first. Some of my earliest conversations with my father, I think, centered around his watch, and I remember him giving me my first watch and setting the times together, which was a Timex. Common experience for a lot of 70s kids.
And you posted in the Timex.
Did I really?
I think you did. I remember seeing it.
What is this? I mean, who is watching this? What is this? Is this
Facebook Live? Yeah.
This is Facebook. Oh, okay.
And I got Instagram Live going.
Oh, you got Instagram? Okay, sorry.
But it worked. It's worked out.
Make sure you shake the phone as much as possible.
Yeah, there you
People
go.
love that when you shake the phone while you're watching the video.
No image stabilization.
I had to put the phone down. I had too much coffee, so my hand was shaking.
Drinking coffee right here.
Yeah, sorry, I don't need to stick that in your face.
No, and then coming of age in the 80s, especially in the early days, Swatch became so very popular.
T loves Swatch.
Talk about having a lot of watches. I love, having swatches and another.
That and Swatch is like the ultimate mixture of design, because they're so free to do what they want.
Well, actually, Swatch did help shape a lot of my design sensibilities. I mean, not just loving, watches as a mark of style, but also their branding and their colors and their typography and what they were doing,
nobody had done anything like that.
Yeah, it was just so clean and colorful and sharp and exciting. And indeed, while I was at FIT, I had a part-time gig with Swatch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I worked with Swatch.
The 80s were a great time for fashion brands to come out. With Benetton and all that stuff.
It was all very inspiring.
Did Benetton make watches?
No, but I'm saying that with the decade he's talking about, 80s and Swatch, like that was really the birth of conspicuous consumption and yuppies and Fossil. The 80s were a fantastic time for product design.
Guess watches.
Well, we were all molded.
We were all wearing designer jeans. That was Air Jordan sneakers, Swatch. Like all these things kind of came out of the 80s. So if you were like coming of age at that time, and that informed your design.
And also the music,
we were talking about music.
A lot of my design icons, Peter Saville and Mark Farrow, they all, Antoine Corbin, they inspired me to, major in design.
What are you drinking, John?
And
we're gonna do an interview about this. We're gonna talk about design, aren't we?
Terrific.
Yeah, because you have so much.
The secret is out.
Yeah, but you have so much insight. I think it would be really cool to share.
Yeah.
To hear from somebody that from a design background,
thanks.
and a New Yorker.
That was be a different angle for you for your channel to have a designer and a person behind the brand. And one of the things that I think will be important for you and for our microbrand industry is showing that there are actual people behind these brands.
Yeah.
They're not some faceless factory brands or cynical money grabs. Just getting factory parts. Every single part of a Hemel watch, like many of my contemporaries, are drawn and designed and thought over, and
a lot of us obsess over details.
A lot of obsession.
Yeah.
So that's that. FIT design. So by the time I wanted to design, my own watch, I kind of had a good idea of what I wanted to do. Something very bold and graphic. And by that point, which was 2 years now, going into my second year as Hemel, the internet have given us so many gifts as entrepreneurs in terms of consumer outreach and marketing and
Instagram,
everything we do. We market and sell online and we collaborate online.
We couldn't do this without social media.
We couldn't do this without social media, certainly not without the internet. And it just made sense. It just made sense for me to...
And yet, the biggest irony is that some of the world's most prestigious and best watch brands have no idea about social media.
They're oblivious.
Absolutely. And I try and talk to them.
You know what's funny is I worked, I got my start in the career in the watch industry at Chrono Swiss. I was the national brand manager for the United States, and we're going back to 1999, 2000, and the internet was booming at that point. It was like when it was really starting to come to.
Everybody's buying up .coms.
Everything, yeah. Like people were buying Disney.com and putting porn up there until Disney paid them $1 million to get the name back. But I used to travel the country with watches, cases full of watches, and my brand did not have a website. And we would go to Germany and have, we would sit down and be like, you need a website. I'm carrying around hundreds of pounds of books that cost you thousands of dollars that nobody wants when you can put your entire catalog on the internet. It's super easy. And the watch industry, whether it be German, Swiss, or everything, is typically, in generality as a whole, so far behind wanting to change, wanting to embrace.
When did they all get websites? What was the year that everybody had a website?
2002, 2003, 2000.
Right.
By 2004, everybody had a website.
I think that's where we are with social media. 10, 12 years ago, if you didn't have a website, you weren't in business.
Absolutely.
Now, I think we're getting to the point where if you don't have a Facebook page, an Instagram account, you are not
and
in
a good
business.
one, an active one with
have to have
with your own group.
But to Tristano's point, theoretically, it was an esoteric or existential question. If you don't have a social media account, is IWC even in business in our world? Clearly they are, but yet, where's the social media? Because that's really the frontier for those brands. They've got the luxury brand marketing down. They do that very well. But they don't have any website.
And social media really means
their
nothing
websites,
unless you're listening to
But here's the
consumers.
thing.
That's
They have beautiful...
engagement.
Okay, so IWC website is amazing. That's great. But how many people are looking at the website now? Because all I know is everybody wants to buy my stuff through Instagram and Facebook. Right. I don't know how many people are going to my website anymore.
The other point, what you just mentioned something, is that you might have it, but if it's not engaging, if people are not responding to you. So let's take this a whole nother realm. Like I'm a music nut, and I like music of all sorts. I like punk rock. I like everything.
About that.
I mean, over the last handful of years, over the last 10 years, I got into country music, and it's country rock kind of music, right? Like modern country rock. But the cool thing about that is that if I'm on Instagram or I'm on Twitter and I engage with an artist or a guitarist for a band or somebody over any genre, country music, for some reason, their stars will be the first to write you back personally, to tag you. As a matter of fact, I'm friendly with a lot of actual country stars because I would be at a show, I'd take a video clip and I put it up, and I put it up on Instagram, I put it up on Twitter or wherever. All of a sudden they're writing back, "Hey man, thank you so much," and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, you're in the watch business? Oh, I like watches," and next thing you know, we become friends.
That's great.
Same thing applies to the watch industry, where if I put something on Hemel's Instagram or on Melbourne's or on NTH or on IWC or on Omega, if somebody replies to me, I don't care who the person behind the keyboard is, but if I feel like somebody's engaging with me, all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I really like this brand. This brand appreciates me as a consumer, as an enthusiast, right? So, and I'm not perfect with WatchGauge at all, but when somebody writes, I make the best attempt to spend some time every single day replying to people, answering questions, whatever it may be, and obviously, you guys have a much bigger social media audience than I do. You have an enormous social media, and I see you getting back on there and engaging with your.
It's important.
When people comment on TGV's videos, he's got 30,000 views, and people are commenting, and he's taking time out of his day to get on and whether it be like or whether it be comment directly to that person, it makes those people feel more engaged with you. It makes people feel more engaged.
And that's important.
And that engagement's very important. That's fun. That's the. As a fan of a watch, as a band, as anything, when somebody engages back with you, you feel more connected to it.
Absolutely. No,
right?
It's important for the future of you know, the watch business.
The watch and any
industry business.
While you were talking, I was asking Sujain. So Sujain has employees now. He's got a guy that is his brand manager that works in his showroom.
Right.
He's got a couple of watchmakers working for him. He had a marketing guy for a while there.
You're a
So I was
baller.
just asking him, I said, who does your social media? He goes,
I still do it all myself.
Absolutely.
Right. But then the second question, could you do it all yourself if you were still doing everything else yourself?
Not anymore, no.
So here's the challenge to brands like mine, is I'm at the point where I think most micro brands, if you are successful at all, you get to the point where there just aren't enough hours in the day.
Sure.
And I've got Instagram, Facebook, the forums, I've got emails coming in, and I'm still trying to do new model development, QC,
Answering
emails, and now I've sold 3,000, 4,000 watches. Even if I've only got a 5% return rate within 2 years, that's starting to come up now. Where and even if though, like right now, I've got my repair process down where you have a problem with the watch, I send you a label, it goes to my guy Dan who repairs stuff. He gets done, he puts it back in the mail. I still have to answer the emails, I still have to play traffic cop. So I think social media is a blessing in that way, that it doesn't give us the ability to target these micro niche markets.
It's always on.
But
It's always on, 24/7.
That were available 24/7.
And I don't know about you guys, but when my wife, like I'm sitting next to my wife watching television, and all of a sudden, bing, I pick up my phone.
My phone goes off like 27 times a day. I never get any work done if I looked at my phone every time it chirps. 100%.
So you actually have to take that time to decompress as well, and take your phone and literally put it on Do Not Disturb and put your phone in another room while you spend time with your family.
I do that.
Yeah, you have to do that.
So I think we're getting to the place now where we have to figure out how do we manage social media in a way that is effective.
I advise setting rules. Like I dedicate 2 hours every day just to writing back to comments and emails. In the early days,
a very fair amount.
Yeah, in the early days, I used to respond to every single one. I can't do that now.
No.
I mean, if you work 8 hours a day, 2 hours a day is 25% of your work time. You're not responding to people on social media.
Yeah. Who works 8 hours a day? Anybody here?
Nope. Right. Well, I think with the we have 8 hours a day when we're supposed to be working.
Yeah.
We spend another 2 hours of social media time. But if you're in business and social media is part of your business, social media is part of your work.
And that's 24/7.
So we got some questions that came in through the Facebook group that we asked a lot of the members.
Shoot,
we figured we wanted to ask some of you guys
fire away.
some of these great, some of these really good questions from group members, and since we have this esteemed group of gentlemen here,
thank you.
It'd be great to get your feedback.
Do we
So Ricardo,
I think somebody should go.
Should we crack the bottle open?
One of the questions we have actually from one of our members, his name is Jonathan.
Oh, I don't answer questions from guys named Jonathan.
He's actually a good friend. Jonathan
It's just a rule. Sorry, Jonathan. No questions answered.
Guys named Jonathan.
He's the
You got
journalist.
Bob? I like guys named Bob.
He's Sebastian Mueller's.
Yeah.
Jonathan Cobb.
Yeah, he's
Jonathan
great.
Cobb's a great guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan's-
He's one of the good Jonathans.
I think Jonathan, you're watching this, right, from France?
No, he's probably sleeping right now.
No. I saw his.
Is he on there?
Yeah, I saw it come up.
Ricardo, what's the question?
Bonsoir, Jonathan.
So the question
What he said, because I don't speak French.
The question he's asking is, how do you guys see the future of your brands? And
It's a good question.
just that future compared to some of the big watch brands that are kind of in the same price point as you guys are. I know personally for me, I just like your watches. They provide a uniqueness that sometimes you just don't find out there. But what are your guys' thoughts on ours?
I mean, for me, Hemel, what's been central to the Hemel identity has been the celebration of military innovation, because I think when you really look into it, a lot of horological innovation has been driven by military need, whether it's anti-dust or water resistance or hacking movements. So I think the futures of Hemel will be to continue to mine these military, classic watches, field watches, aviation watches, dive watches. I want Hemel to be on land, in air, in the sea, and eventually, in space. And I really want to bring that praise, of military innovation. Really. So that's where I'll be. I'll be continuing to opening up those streets.
Awesome. Exciting. How about you, Sujain?
Me?
You're going to run for Australian Parliament and talk about that. Your parliamentary run.
Sadly, I'm not born in Australia, so I can't do that.
Where were you born?
Malaysia. Yeah. For me, it's putting more, I guess, Melbourne into the brand. I really would like to be the first person to get a properly Australian-made watch. I mean, we have an organisation in Australia which certifies watches, certifies Australian-made products. I've seen a little green triangle with a kangaroo in it. That's Australian-made.
Is there any watch brand that's actually done that yet? No. So you aspire to be the first?
Yeah. But there's a lot of challenges involved with that, because we could do the whole, it's how a lot of brands get Swiss made. We could just have a certain percentage of parts over that, and the value of assembly, etc., to meet that requirement. But I think that we would really need to have the movement to be done in Australia, and that's going to be a big challenge. But one step at a time. Beyond that, the reason I'm here in the States this week is we've been exploring some additional distribution opportunities. So we're also looking to get ourselves available to a broader audience outside of Australia. I mean, we ship worldwide, but particularly Europe, UK, Canada, for example, it is harder for people to import due to taxes and hassles. And so just really getting the word out there and expanding, hiring more staff, more watchmaking staff. I'm very proud that we've managed to create some jobs from nothing in Melbourne and in an industry which is really up and coming. So, that's onwards and upwards, I think. That's
onwards and upwards.
Yeah,
I've heard that before. Well, I wonder where.
No, he says it all the time.
You stole from him.
Oh, come on. Watch the show, darn it.
He stole from him, right? What did we say? Just joking.
Guy comes and visits all the way from Australia, doesn't even know the guy's tagline. It's ridiculous.
All right, so are you doing the Facebook? Okay.
This is
I'm
Facebook.
doing Instagram, so
Well,
all right, whatever you prefer.
There's another question from Carlos Roberto.
I'm not going to get to answer that first question?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. No, we want to hear your
answer.
Sorry, Carlos, hold on a minute. We want to... I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, my plans are less specific. Big picture, in the near future, I realized recently that there's not enough hours in a day to do social media and product development and customer support, so I have to start separating myself from some of that, and I realized that my real passion within my own business is in product development, so I want to start doing that. Sujain and I have been good friends for a while. Marvin's a newer friend. We have other friends that own businesses like ours. I think that there's opportunity there for us to help each other. I would like to maybe be a leader within that movement of helping to promote the industry standards for micro brands so that we can assure the market more that we are delivering a quality product, and start to see, we don't want to try to control the businesses, but just start to set some standards in place. Baseline sort of best practices and things to help customers feel safe buying from us. I would also like to help bring back real, true, mass production American watchmaking, and I think we're nearing a point where, when I was talking with Sujain about, why do you really want to make watches in Australia? Is it patriotism or is it quality control? I think we're nearing a point where we're hitting critical mass with volume, and the costs of doing overseas production are coming up, whereas labor rates are starting to equalize. I think we are nearing a point where it's going to start making better sense to start making more things in America again, and I think there's tremendous interest in that, not necessarily because of patriotism, but because I think if we can get the cost down and the quality up, then I think it becomes a global competitive thing. Yeah. So I would like to be a part of that. So for my business, continue to develop product, start to separate myself from the day-to-day customer support and social media, and bring people in that can do that, either through partnerships with companies like WatchGauge or other resellers, or maybe just hire people like Sujain has done. Because the more I do of that stuff, the less I have time to do product development, and I just figured out that the more I do of that stuff, the less good at it I am, and the less time I have to do what I'm better at, which is more product development stuff. Yeah. And I just think I'm not. If I'm online 24/7 and I'm cranky or I'm not at my best, because none of us are always at our best, I'm not doing myself any favors by being that way. So it'd be better if I spent less time online, but I was more at my best.
I'll deal with the stress.
Okay.
And we just spend a lot of hours,
maintaining our brands. And
of course, I think the risk of being on social media, at least for me in my world, is if you're not on social media, you're not engaging with the customer kind of expects that. But if you are on social media, there's a risk that you don't show your best face to the people that you want to be your friends. So I think there's a fine line there, and I think I've found that I'm just spending way too much time online, and the more time I spend when I'm not at my best, there's more of a risk that I'm going to show people that side of me. That it'd be better if I spent less time and just was always at my best.
That's fair.
He knows himself, you know.
So what's the question from?
So
Carlos.
did you want to ask a question from Carlos?
No.
Blah 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 blah.
Carlos,
All right, so Carlos asked, why are micro brands reluctant to engage via social media? So before you guys really get into it, I feel that micro brands personally are more engaging social media wise.
Why are some?
But why are some? Maybe why are some?
Micro brands or just some watch brands?
The question is why some? I'm sorry. The question is why are brands reluctant to engage via?
So I thought institutionalized problem. They're just resistant to the change.
I agree with you.
They're so used to telling you what you have to buy.
Well, let's interpret the question. So if we're talking about mainstream brands, I think the reason is they're behind the times.
Yes.
Especially the luxury brands, they've been reliant on luxury marketing agencies, and they just don't understand the landscape has shifted.
There are two answers.
The landscape has shifted. But for micro brands, and we know because we talk to our friends.
Well, we were born on social media.
But a lot of our friends don't engage enough, and I think there's a challenge there where the typical micro brand owner is a watch geek. Many of us are introverted. We're used to being. I'm not talking about myself.
You guys, hold on a second. Hold on. So I've got three guys here that have no social skills, and.
I wasn't talking about myself.
or anybody else in the room, but everybody else.
No, I'm saying, who's a typical micro brand owner? It's a guy that's definitely a watch geek. It's a watch geek, and many watch geeks are more introverted. So there's a little bit of that, like they're hesitant to come out of their shell. And where are they going to go that's going to be a friendly environment? So the forums, a lot of times the forums want you to be a sponsor before you can even talk about your business, and they hit you up for money, or free products. Or you go on Facebook.
That kills me.
You go on Facebook, and it's like, okay, well, there's my own little circle of friends, but if I really want to reach a broader audience, I got to be in a group. And a lot of these groups are running like they want to be able to. They want to be able to hit you up with free product or money.
Social media being meaningless unless you're willing to have a sincere conversation.
Right. So what? And you know, a lot of times what I'm telling you
that the more mainstream brands are not having.
Right. So what we say to other brand owners is, look. Nobody cares what you're selling until they know that you actually are also an enthusiast, a part of the community.
I've always known
that
that people like you, they'll buy from you.
Right.
People like you, they'll buy from you.
But I think there's a lot of brands that are just too anonymous. You know the brand name, but you have no idea who's behind it or what their story
and
is.
And if you do get a response from them via Twitter or Instagram, it's a faceless, it's just an employee.
That's a big bone of contention of mine. When I see a brand that I like and say, well, gee, I might want to carry it or I might want to, work with them. And I go to the About Me section of their page, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing about the person who founded it. There's no real story behind it.
Or if it is, a mainstream brand, what's their history? It goes back 100 years. It's a guy that's been dead for.
No, I'm thinking more on the lines of like micro brands and.
What I'm saying, the mainstream brands are run like businesses, and our businesses are run more like there's a people behind the business.
We have soul.
Yeah.
If you get a response from one of them.
I might not have rhythm, but I have soul.
Although on that, in my case, if you go to the About Us section or the Our Story section on our website,
I want to know about you.
You will not see me on there. You will not see my story on there because I made a very conscious decision when doing this. It's about the brand. It's not just me. But by the same token,
you're purposely making it about Melbourne.
Yeah, so
the city.
You're trying to make that place.
Yeah. Plus, I don't want to scare people. I don't want to scare people. No, but by the same token, I do have guys to answer support emails and inquiries and things like that. But I make it a point wherever
I just think it's funny
to personally answer.
You have pictures of your employees on your website.
Yeah.
You don't have a picture of yourself.
Look.
Well, I was expecting to see one of the employees.
Is that because you don't want to scare people?
This is Sujain. Who is this guy?
I don't know.
I thought you were Irish.
Somebody called us Yanks. Somebody thinks you're a Yank.
But I'm making a point to try to answer personally as many inquiries as I can. So on the plane over here from LA today, I was answering emails myself. So it's people like that. They like to hear from the owner of the company. But
I think you and I participate on the forums.
Yeah, that's it.
One of the things I hear most often, as far as feedback goes, is people, even if they don't like my personality, the people who do like me say, I like the fact that you're a real person, you are who you are, and I like that I get to know you through the forums. So when Sujain and I and Chip, our friend from Avid, go to like Hong Kong, like I was saying, we write about it and we talk, we take pictures, and it's not just, here's a watch, here's a watch, here's a watch. It's us out drinking at the bar with Jason from Halligan's in Hong Kong.
That's
we show the real life behind what's going on. So we go to Hong Kong, we have fun.
This is very important because this gets into the lifestyle.
Right.
And that is an important aspect of social media these days because I think the whole faceless thing doesn't work. When you know the person behind the brand, and I think that's part of the reason why the Urban Gentry has grown quicker than nameless sponsored so-called journalists. Right.
It's not a corporate.
Yeah,
it's not a corporate persona.
Well, that's me sitting at my desk at home just talking about things I love, and that beats any kind of
Those Hong Kong threads we do. Those are
and
people live for those Hong Kong threads. They always like 40, 50 pages long. There's always
half of it's him though.
Tons of you too and shit. All right, I like to tell a story here and there, but I mean, it's a great time, and it's when we talk about this community. Yeah, okay. You can go online, you can talk to other watch geeks, people that share the same hobby as you. But when you're looking at another guy's vacation pics, it's like you're talking to a friend on Facebook, somebody you went to high school with. So we actually have a lot of people who aren't just our customers, they're also our friends.
Being friendly with them.
Right. Yeah. But that's part of the thing, and I certainly wouldn't tell anybody how to do their business or what to do or anything like that. But from a standpoint of a guy that's a fan of watches, let's pretend I'm not a part of WatchGauge, I'm not a part of the watch industry. If I go to Chris's site, I'd prefer to see pictures of him, drinking beer, doing whatever. Like, no, and I mean it. I'm serious. Like, I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him in a bikini at the beach, but I want to see. But
this goes back to my.
That was a weird trip in Hong Kong.
Where the Swiss luxury brands are going wrong is they're selling a lifestyle that most of their customers can't achieve, and it's not realistic. So we're selling a lifestyle that's basically like, hey, you could be just like us. We're a bunch of regular guys. We go to Hong Kong. We go out. We drink. We have fun.
Yeah, because everybody goes to Hong Kong.
We have good meals. We go for business. What we do in Hong Kong is just
stays in Hong Kong.
Well, no, it doesn't. We're writing about.
We go to the WatchTower.
We could easily be four friends hanging around the neighborhood bar. We happen to be watch guys. Yeah. We're talking about watches. We're talking business.
That's sort of my point. Is that the more people can get to know Marvin as Hemel and Sujain as to me, people are attracted to the Urban Gentry channel and the group because you're a very personable guy. You don't, you're you. You get out there. You say what you love. You say what you enjoy. Right. And I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not kissing Keil. The point being is that you're relatable because you're talking to the people on camera as if you're in the same room with them. And I feel that if the brands also portray that sort of feeling and that sort of, you're a regular guy, Chris. You're a regular guy, Sujain. You're not. You guys aren't people who are trying to be somebody who's not. You're not in a private jet.
We don't have private jets. We don't
right, exactly. You're regular guys who happen to love watches. Yeah, exactly. And you break your tail loving your craft and doing what you're doing. To me personally, and I may be wrong, that resonates with watch collectors, with clients, with people who are fans who don't buy watches, but they like.
Well, I think there's a certain level of resentment that sets in when you see Leonardo DiCaprio or David Beckham with a Tudor or a Tag or whatever, and you think, I don't want to make that guy richer. He's already rich enough.
And I don't begrudge them making money, personally. However, if I'm going to spend my money on a watch, maybe I want to do it where
I just think the industry has fallen behind. So why don't brands engage? The answer to the question is sort of all of this, where there are micro brands that don't engage because they don't know how or they're scared. There are major brands that don't engage because they're 10 years behind the curve.
All of our brand ambassadors are actual consumers
Yeah, all of our brands
Yeah.
are customers.
Yeah, well,
Every time I see a wristwatch check online, it's like a little trophy.
That's my whole feeling is if you look at, let's say, for instance, GoPro, right? Like GoPro, the camera company, they built their business on brand evangelists. People who love their product so much that they're willing to take the pictures and the videos, put them on social media, put them on Instagram, put them on, and because it's a good product, you know. So
I think we're seeing now is like the birth of the micro celebrity, where we're micro brands, we're serving a niche market, but anybody who's one of my customers or one of Sujain's or Marvin's customers, if you can get 2,000-3,000 followers on Instagram, you're somebody who I actually want to know.
Yeah.
I want to see that I want to know that you're wearing one of my watches and you're posting that up, so you're going to get 200 likes.
100%.
That's actually better than me having 15,000 followers. I'd rather have 15 guys, each with 2,000-3,000 followers, putting my watches up regularly, because I know they're going to get more eyes on my product than I could do on my own.
Yeah,
And
sharing.
those guys are becoming like micro celebrities.
Yeah.
If you really want to talk about customer engagement, I think some of the best micro brand projects have involved. We've brought in the community to say, hey, what do you think of this case back, or what do you think of this lug or this crown? How would you design it? What would you change? How would you contribute to this? I know I've been a part of the Wallet Friendly Watch Forum for
Which used to be the poor man's watch forum.
Exactly, and I got them involved in designing the case back.
Is that what it's called?
The Wallet Friendly.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, it used to be the poor man's watch.
Hey, didn't the guy die or something? The guy that owned it?
Yeah, that was a little bit. That was just before my time. I heard the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
Now,
Very,
building
very
on
unfortunate
everything
story.
John's kind of said, you guys are these watch geeks. What was that thing that kind of took you from being the watch geek? So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start a brand and I'm going to start selling watches.
What made you make the jump?
Yeah, what made you make the jump from being me
I
to you?
Yeah. That's a good question. Again, as a designer, and I, graduated from the Fashion Institute, it's just something I've always wanted to do is, create a brand. And,
Was it watch brand or fashion brand?
I wanted to do a brand. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had a lot of interest. It could have been a small leather goods company. It could have been.
He's into leather.
Chaps, actually. It's assless chaps.
Whole line of Menke assless chaps.
Oh yeah. Well, that's part 2 of Hemel.
That's called Bummel.
It
was called Bummel.
Could have been Janis.
Did you say Hummel?
What was it? No, Bummel.
Bummel. Oh God.
Attractive. But yeah, it's just my love for watches and the mark of style and the connection to my father and memories of the 70s, my uncles and friends with these nice chunky Seikos and whatnot. So and just practically speaking, the floor space that a watch inventory requires is something that I could accommodate in my own house, and it's just a sensible product, I think, for longevity. I mean, watch designs are sold for decades, whereas if you have a fashion brand, you're dealing with a fickle customer, based on trends, highly disloyal, and if you can't move inventory, you're kind of dead in the water. True. It takes up a lot of space. So I like that watches, and plus also, watches are something that people keep for decades, so it takes a lot of thought for a person to make a watch decision, and I really want to dignify that decision with the best materials and craftsmanship.
I have a question.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, people keep their watches for years, so it's an extension of who they are, really.
Yeah, but that's like the
like
ultimate form
to
of
that.
validation. When you design something, and somebody, and you, like you said, they're going to own it for a decade or more. That's got to feel pretty good to say, like, I designed that, and that guy's going to own that for 10 or 20 years.
I mean, if we're lucky, they pass on to their kids.
Well, and most watch geeks will put like 3 to 6 months of research in before they make a purchase, even at our price range.
I like that. You don't have that with a fashion brand necessarily.
Well, it's interesting, but it's
or
also
most other products.
It also makes us nuts because it's like, man, like we got these people coming back to our websites 27 times before they finally make a purchase.
And asking 117
I
questions.
do get that.
Yeah. So it could be frustrating.
Which is
too,
cool.
But I like the idea that you're dignifying their purchase by
Yeah.
giving them something that's like, man, I put my heart and soul into this. I earned that purchase.
There you go.
So
Again, it's a small trophy.
What about you, Sujain?
So it was, so just I was saying before, I originally got into watches as more of a hobby business. I used to actually buy parts of like Panerai and part of the clones and assemble them myself. literally on my kitchen table, and that was just for fun. I did sell them on eBay and WatchTower. Wasn't really making any money.
It was like Melbourne 1.0.
So, and from there, it just I got to the point where I just couldn't stand my day job anymore as an IT consultant, and I started talking to Chris here, and he gave me some advice and put me in touch with his factory. And after a bit more thinking, I figured that this could actually be something, and I wanted to do it seriously, so I actually did it full time right from the very start. Literally quit my job, started the brand the next day, and I gave myself 12 months. I said, look, if I can do something with this in 12 months, then I'll keep doing it. Otherwise, IT's not going anywhere. I'll get back to that, and thankfully, I'm still here 5 years later. So.
Amen to that.
Yes. That's pretty much
You
it.
do make a nice watch.
Thanks.
What about you, Doc?
Doc. My story is...
He's not actually a doctor. You could trust him like one.
No, I wasn't really a watch geek. I was looking at, I was in a career that was going nowhere. I'd had a good run, but it was sort of a sideways slide for a number of years. I was selling software, and I wanted to get into an e-commerce business. I was kind of looking at various products. I had one that I was working on, and that business plan kind of fell apart right around the time I lost my job. I got fired, and it was kind of funny. So I got fired on a Monday. My water heater broke on Tuesday, and then my watch stopped on Wednesday. And what I tell people is, thank God my watch stopped, because I could be selling water heaters right now. Is there a forum, water heaters you seek?
Water
heaters. Right.
Water heaters.
So when my watch stopped, I only owned it a year. It was a quartz watch, had a battery in it. The battery died, and I was like, this is stupid. I'm tired of going to the mall, putting a new battery in my watch. What does a good watch cost? A mechanical watch. So my background was actually in financial services. I was always good at numbers and reverse engineering businesses. So as soon as my watch stopped, I go, aha. I started looking at, I read Fossil stockholders reports. I read all the Swiss Watch Federation reports, going back like 3 or 4 years, cover to cover. And I started researching the industry. What are the markups? What are the costs? What are the margins? And I found these forums, and I thought, wow, from a sales perspective, you can't buy that sort of market research where you have these guys online talking about this product 24/7. Yeah. You can't pay for that. You can't get that anywhere.
Hemel would never have happened if it wasn't for the forums and the online watch community.
And it just sucked me in. Yeah. So it sucked me in. Every single question that I Googled in my research eventually led me back to the watch forums. And within a month, I knew, okay, this is it. I can do this. So I started working on design. And I was spending 16 hours a day online. I was either working on my design, talking to vendors, or talking to watch geeks online. And I had, 6 months of that before
I remember that point as well.
Yeah.
I was online like a maniac for the...
I slept 4 hours a night.
And I said to my wife,
3 years.
There's something here. We can do this.
Right. So I knew within a month I was going to do it. I had a design worked on for about the next month. You interview factories, you figure it out, and it was a disaster at first, but you stick it out.
Well, it's a learning process.
It's a learning process. You plow through. We had a huge defect rate. I had so many sleepless nights. The factory was telling me, you got to change this, you got to change that. I didn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night for the first 6 months, but it worked out okay.
Here we are.
Yeah,
You have a great watch also.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
A lot of great watches.
All right, so
I think that's I think that's about it for tonight. We're going to continue the evening on to have some wine and talk some more watches. But thanks for checking out this discussion, guys. I think we'll be doing this a lot more.
Yeah, this
thanks to Marvin from Hemel, Sujain from Melbourne. Thank you, Chris Vail from.
This guy's ready to run. He's got his gloves on.
Good old Tristano.
Ricardo. Hey, this whole thing was Ricardo's brainchild.
Ricardo, Sime, our great admin.
Oh, look at him.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Oh, gee. Oh, shucks. Nice job.
But thanks, everybody,
Thank
for checking
you.
it out. Ciao.
TGV.
Ciao.
Sujain. Marvin's running to the bathroom. Should I follow him in?
No, that's so creepy, John.
Make sure you use the booty machine.
Wait. Wrong forum, wrong group.
So,
hey.
Yeah, we'll see each other soon.
Thanks to everybody. It was fun.
Cheers. Have a good night.
One and up.